Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the damn sofa. That's the sofa and that's my little sassy sidekick Roscoe eating those little Scooby snacks over there. And my name is Paul. I hope everybody has been doing well. Now y'all, today we're going to be going down this little rabbit hole. I guess you can see, again, not really a rabbit hole, but it is what it is. What ended up happening is this, which is how we end up around this damn sofa so many times. So I was like, you know what, I haven't watched that the time where Melanie Gibb was on the stand, and you know, the very, like, what seems like, well, it was years ago, I guess, but the very beginning of this case, when, you know, information was coming out, it was still this huge shock. It still is, but nonetheless, they brought Gibb up on the stand. And remember, this is also when she was doing the interviews with Nate, so on and so forth. Okay, so you already know, I was like, well, wait, she said this here and then this here, that kind of a thing, right? But then I got to the recorded phone call that she placed to Lori and Chad. And that's where I was like, okay, I have so many things to say, and I'm almost 100% positive I did a video on this phone call like a while ago or whatever, but probably not in necessarily this order, nor looking through the lens of this, right? So long story short, okay, I went down the rabbit hole again, and so I was like, well, she said this here, and then this phone call and did it up. So here's what we're doing. Now this could end up being a two-part video, right? Because I haven't even gotten to the the defense side of it when they question her. So I just literally was like, here, I stopped after the phone call. I was like, I'm done. So what I want to do is review that phone call, but before that, kind of go over some stuff, pulling from, you know, some of the footage that we've seen. We've gone over here before at this channel of her interrogation, but also with some of her interviews with Nate, some of her time on the stand, so on and so forth, to kind of set things up. Because I do think looking through the lens of what we know now, back at this phone call, it's very interesting because I think, number one, she does make some interesting points in it, but overall, I do feel like it is a completely self-serving recorded phone call. I still feel that way about it. I still have my doubts about her time on the stand when and if it comes for the trial, so on and so forth. So that's what we're doing in this video, okay? And so we're gonna kind of do it in that same format. I'm gonna make commentary, put some clips up, and comment on them. So this is one of them situations where you're gonna wanna go ahead and get some snacks and settle in. But before you go get your snacks, or maybe you wanna eat them while we do this, let's go ahead and make room on the damn sofa. Roscoe, slide on damn over. You already know who it's for. It's for our favorite sponsor, HelloFresh. Y'all, welcome to the sofa once again this week. Guess what, everyone? We're still at it with HelloFresh. We've been maintaining our goals and taking control over our food choices with each box we get. And the packaging that HelloFresh uses to send the food is already recycled content. I tried new recipes this week just to help keep us out of our food rut. For today's video, I made the one-pan Santa Fe pork tacos. Y'all, they were so good, I almost didn't save any for Matt, but rest assured, I did. The recipes are always simple, fresh, and the pre-portioned ingredients help limit the meal prep time and cut back on trips to the grocery store. One thing Matt and I are noticing is that we're in and out of the grocery store much faster these days with less impulse shopping, and we're noticing the difference not only in our health but our savings also. HelloFresh makes eating well easier with many family-friendly, fit and wholesome, and veggie options each week. Plus, each recipe includes fresh produce sourced directly from farmers. Now with HelloFresh's fit and wholesome recipes, you can totally indulge in these amazing meals without any of the worries. HelloFresh also has more 5-star reviews than any other meal kit, so you know you are getting something totally yummy. The meal that you're watching me cook, the prep time was like 5 minutes and the cook time was like 20. Now HelloFresh offers a wide variety of these quick and easy recipes, 20-minute meals, easy cleanup, and low prep options. The fact that we're able to do so much home cooking is a huge accomplishment for us. Let HelloFresh help you with 50 weekly menu and market items to choose from, so you can think less about what's for dinner and more about achieving your goals. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code ReportingLiveFromMySofa16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code ReportingLiveFromMySofa16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Okay, yeah, so give those a shot. I'm not gonna lie, I already had them today and they were amazing. All the stuff's down in the description, so check that out. There's also other stuff down in the description, so check all that out. So let's go ahead and start talking about all this. Now, in order to begin this off, we need to have a moment where we look at truth and what that means.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Ms. Gibb, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gibb, you can be seated here at this witness chair.
Now that's all good intentions, all that being said. And this is going to become prevalent more as we talk about some things that come up later. So let's continue on the conversation of truth.
Some of these questions popped up, and I want you to be honest with me. And I don't have any reason.
I'm always going to be
I don't have any
100%
reason
honest with you.
to believe that you haven't.
Okay.
But what I do want you, anything that we talk about that you don't think is important, ask us. What I don't want to happen here is Melanie to think, well, you know what? And I don't know if that's happening. I hope not. But something you might be holding back on us, thinking, well, I'm not sure if I really want them to know that.
Okay.
Unless they ask me a direct question about it.
Okay.
We don't want to have to be pulling
Yeah.
information out of you.
Okay.
Just be an open book and tell us.
Absolutely.
And it'll make this a whole lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Now, notice how when he started saying that, first of all, I will always tell you the truth. And then he had to get more specific and be like, well, that's all fine and great. But also, we don't want you to just be leaving things out. Okay. And again, my whole thing with watching her time on the stand, and again, I'm mostly focusing on the beginning part where she's talking to the state, or she's being questioned by the state, is she does give these flat answers, which is what you're supposed to do. She's probably coached about this. I mean, you're not supposed to get up there and just go off, right? But you're supposed to get these flat answers, yes, that kind of thing, which is what she does. But then definitely as we look at this other information and you look at what she says on the stand at times, you're like, what? And we're going to go over a few of those things. But anyways, let's stay on the subject here of truth.
But on the eternal thing, I think that God wanted me to be a witness for all this. So, and that's a whole different discussion. But somebody needed to be a witness to all this craziness that would tell the truth.
Okay, now what I find interesting about this is, again, the whole truth thing. Notice how so many things she's come out with, the truth. But as you see her testimony, and I'm talking about testimony and interviews, interrogations, court, she's really not being all that truthful about some things. She's omitting some things. And a huge thing that we're going to come to that will circle back around to this phone call is the level that she is removing herself from responsibility and trying to get around that. So let's go ahead and watch a quick clip on that same subject of truth that she does with Nate in an interview.
So why are you ready today?
Because I faced all the fears, and then I decided that the truth was more important than what I wanted. And I needed to do it for those that have passed on, that justice may be served. I think it's fair to Charles and JJ and Tammy and Tylee that someone is standing up for what happened to them.
So my whole thing with this is we continually see this, again, almost like this self-serving truth. I do feel like she thinks that she's some kind of a prophet, right? And we see this continually keep coming up where she's supposed to be witness to this and this and that. 100% she will have a book, right? And what's going to happen is this is going to go into my overall theme with my overall opinion that this phone call that she places to Lori, which is to give to the police and all this, is less concerned about the children and what's been going on with other people, and 100% just removing herself from any kind of accountability or culpability in what has taken place. So on that note, let's segue also into a recurring thing we talk about here with many of these people, whether it's Zulema, Lori, Chad, Melanie, and this is the attitude towards the children. So let's just look at, again, some of these clips and whatnot about how she speaks of the children, and especially Tylee.
Do you know if Lori Vallow had any children?
Yes.
Are you familiar with Tylee Ryan?
Yes.
Did you ever meet Tylee Ryan?
Yes.
And did you ever have opportunity to see Tylee Ryan with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Okay, so now remember the clip we just watched with Nate Eaton towards the end where she's talking and whatnot, and she's like, listing the victims off, and she says Tylee's name last. Then right here with this flap, yes. Now again, I get it. This is what you're supposed to do. She is answering the questions. There's nothing that, but notice when the names, the children's name, all this, JJ, all this stuff is brought up. She starts the grooming, the mouth grooming, the thing. I think this is very interesting. I don't know. I'm sure it could be like a medication thing. I take some medications that make my mouth dry, but I just also think that it's like a nerve thing, right?
Do you know at that point in time if there was any tension between Lori and Tylee?
There was always tension.
Was there?
When wasn't tension? I mean, it was from day one that I met her. I walk in the room, I super good with teenagers, love them. Hi, she's like, if we were each other, I was like, hi, and she.
Now, we've examined that clip several times here. It almost goes without saying. I mean, the look on her face when they're talking about Tylee and her immediate response of, when was there not tension? This is a child that has passed, right? And so just that level of angst towards her. Now, again, you've heard me say this on this channel before, and we'll get into this discussion about the whole thing of, Lori called her mom and da-da-da-da. And we're going to examine some of that when we get into the phone call part. But I do feel like there's some jealousy towards Tylee. I feel like that comes out. But I feel like there's also a lot of stress surrounding the kid thing, right? Meaning any conversation with the kids, she immediately goes into these stressors. And if it's Tylee, she seems to go into this level of disgust. Now, I just, I don't get a sincere feeling off of it. I don't get that it's, oh my God, something really horrible happened to these children. Let me self-soothe. I feel like it's am I going to get in trouble? I ain't no lawyer, I ain't no doctor, I ain't no cop. Okay, but that's just my sofa opinion on that one. I just feel like that. So let's also look at the dynamic now of the friendship with Lori, because that's going to become very prevalent when we talk about this phone call. One thing with these clips we're about to watch is I feel like Melanie portrays one thing, like we were friends, we had a spiritual relationship. And so let's just look at some of the things that she says.
What was the basis of your relationship with Lori Vallow?
It was based upon things that we talked about, which were spiritual in nature.
Would you call yourself, were you friends with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
So they're friends. This is real basic. I mean, many of us would say this about somebody, right?
And what was that relationship like?
Wow.
In the beginning,
yeah.
What was it like?
So we talked often about our experiences that we had spiritually, and we talked about some of our trials that we've overcome, and we talked a lot about the second coming as well, and how excited we are for the things that we've been studying and learning. And so just a lot of interest in that area. Mm-hmm. And we just talked about life and being a mom, and JJ being a handful, being autistic, and what that was like. And we just talked about our life.
So in here with her conversation with Nate, you can tell that there's a level of hesitancy. Now, I have no doubt that anybody would be nervous, right? Going on TV, talking about this kind of stuff, whatever, right? I get that, and I'm not going to fault her for that, like I would be too. But the thing that does throw me off with her is that now that we know that there was all this other stuff, and notice how in the beginning she says, and he finally, she gets a little weird, and he says, well, in the beginning, and you can tell that it's like, because a huge concern of hers that we see, and it comes out in the interrogations and all this kind of stuff, is the fact of, how involved she was with this police stuff and all that. So anyways, so we go from these two clips right here of this, like kind of the beginning, this is where the friendship is, until let's take a look at this next one from the interrogation.
Melanie, let me ask you this. With multiple probations,
Yeah.
were you 100% believer in that?
Probably sounded like I was, but there was always that question mark. Everything's a question mark for sure, but did I sound like I believed in it? Yeah, I tried to. I tried believing it at times. She'd tell me stuff like, no. And then sometimes I was like, I don't like this because I'm not.
Well,
I haven't lived very many lives.
What was your spiritual name that she would use for you?
Phoebe.
Phoebe.
I don't remember if she had another name for me. Man, it's the memories.
And then how were you related to her? How were you related to Lori?
So she was Joseph Smith's, but I forgot his name now, but one of his descendants, right? One of his great-great-great-great-grandfathers. So he was his great Joseph Smith. Anyway, her name was Mary Smith, and he was whoever the other Smith man was. I forgot his name now. I used to know. And I was the oldest of all her kids, and I was Phoebe. And then the last one was Christina. She would have Christina, I think, at the last or the second to last, something like that. She had like 10.
With the same father?
Yeah, so she only had one husband in that one, according to her. Now, I don't believe that now, just for the record. I
Right.
do not believe any of this stuff.
So Lori was your mom?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's times you call her mom and some
Yeah,
text messages.
yeah.
Um,
Did I 100% believe in it? Say like, I buried in the 90s at times, but I tried to like, is this really, I mean, there would obviously be like, is this really true? This is so far out here, I definitely questioned all of it.
well,
that makes my eyes crossed. There's so much to unpack from just that little clip. But again, we're kind of looking through the lens of this other stuff. So again, with the whole thing in the beginning of her trying to separate this, how much into the multiple probations you are. Now, a couple of things with her, and I just noticed these because I try to pay attention to the tics that she does. I call them tics. It's not, I'm not diagnosing her with anything. I can't do that, right? But the things that she does, because I'm very curious to see when she gets on the stand, when and if the trial happens, all this stuff, right? The things that she does. She immediately gets very nervous. She is looking to the one officer because if I remember correctly, he is LDS, right? And the other guy who's kind of talking to her isn't. I could be wrong on that one. But I feel like Hermosillo's not and the other dude is. And so the whole interview, she does that with him. But so she's saying all this in the very beginning. And then when they go into what was your, the names. And this is what I'm talking about, how we go from in the courtroom, yes, we were friends, we talked about spiritual stuff, and we do this jump to, well, her spiritual name for me was Baby, and, she was Joseph Smith so-and-so from great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, and, I tried to avoid the whole, yes, she was my mom, and so he has to ask her. And this is what they were talking about in the beginning, where they want her to come completely forward. She's so embarrassed because she 100% went down this, right? And we'll get to here in a little bit how she tries to say she didn't know whatnot, even with Lori, but she is just so embarrassed. She's drinking the water. She's pretending to draw things on the table. She's looking at him talking about the memory. Because this stuff, and she probably has two things going, right? She doesn't want to say something wrong or be considered like, I don't know how that religion works in that church, but almost like, say it was something blasphemous and they kicked her out of the church. That's what I'm getting at. I don't know what they call that for that religion. I'm sure she's trying to keep that up. Then she's also embarrassed in front of somebody else who belongs to the same religion as her. And then just, one would hope, personal damn self-respect. My God, right? But, so we see in the courtroom, yeah, we were friends, and mind you, they're going to get deeper. All this stuff will come out, right? But then when you scratch beneath the surface and all these things and you get down to it, okay, but this is what this friendship, escalated into, right? So it's all very telling. It's all very concerning, because these are some of the reasons why I'm just like, yeah, her time in the stand is going to be completely sketchy. And let's look at what she says in comparison as well to what she says with Nate Eaton again in that interview about this stuff.
This might be going a little too far.
It was definitely different. The idea was definitely a new concept. I'm a very open person, so I don't necessarily think it's not true. And before I just listened to what they said. Did I 100% believe any of it ever? No, not 100%, no. So when you get introduced to something, you kind of just, let it marinate. And so I just listened to them talk about it. It was not something that I knew anything about until they shared it with me, so.
And not something that you had heard at church or in Sunday school or in a manual anywhere?
Never. Yeah, it does not represent our church's teachings at all.
Okay, so here she is with Nate, another member of the same, religion, church, that kind of a thing. And we've seen him talk about this stuff, right? Where he's like, yeah, I've never heard of any of this kind of stuff, right? And she's, confirming this. Pardon me, the thing with Melanie in this is, again, this trying to distance herself. And when we break the phone call down in a minute, that's one thing that I see is where she's finally, for the first time I think you can see in this phone call, actually doing this with Lori, and it gives you a better perspective where Lori's like, huh? Because I do think Melanie was all into this stuff. Another thing I think she was doing is I think that she was probably one of those people that was like along for the ride on things. Remaining quiet, passive, agreeable, going along with, and then when things got turbulent, obviously they did, she jumped off and it was like, oh no, I never said that. And we'll see in the phone call she does with Lori. And that's why it's a surprise to them where it's like, what? It's news to them because I think she was way more involved in this belief system and going along with it. And the evidence shows that. That's why these cops are being so like, hello, you are calling our mommy. So that being said, let's go ahead and start looking at that phone call and kind of just going through some of the parts that really stuck out to me and using the lens that we've kind of looked through in these comparisons of the different versions of stories and all that kind of stuff and the different unlayering. Because again, one thing I think that the police in their interview, and I keep calling it interrogation, I mean interview, I think one thing that he hit the nail on the head is him saying, look, we want you to come forth with everything if you're holding back, because I think Melanie is just that. She's like an onion. She has many layers to her, and she's not going to peel them back unless forced to, right? Because she's embarrassed. She doesn't want to get in trouble, all this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people around this crowd, this cult, whatever you want to call it, were doing that. They were just very passive, standing by, watching what was happening, not saying anything, not doing anything, because they were going along with whatever, BS Lori and Chad were selling to them. I guess hoping it was real, while everyone lost their lives around them and not saying one word about it. So let's go ahead and jump into this and let's continue analyzing this crazy little case.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hi, Chad. Hey, Lori.
Hey, let me put on speaker.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God. I mean, just hearing the hello, sweet Melanie. I mean, just sent shivers down my spine. I do not for the life of me get the appeal to this guy. He sounds like he has no soul. I really don't think he does. It's like completely lifeless, right? I'm not getting it. I do not get it at all. I mean, please, somebody help me out here. Anyways, that was my own little petty remark. Let's get down to the good stuff.
All right.
We're enough to the phone. How are you guys?
We're okay. How are you doing, babe?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. I was wondering, where are you guys?
We're just hanging out.
Hanging out? Are you in Idaho?
We're in Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so first of all, with this clip right here, notice that Lori calls her babe. Now, as Lori gets more desperate in this phone call, as Melanie starts to split away from her, we're going to notice some of these little words. I think Lori is completely trying to manipulate Melanie and bring her back in. And one thing I think this phone call does is it gives us some insight into how Lori kept Melanie and other people like her in. Like, you know what I mean? I think she could tell what Melanie wanted and needed and came at her with that. Almost like a bunch of compliment sandwiches, and she was just kind of feeding them to her. But also on that note, even if somebody called you up serving this energy right off the rip into the phone call, even if you hadn't done anything wrong, you would be like, am I in trouble? This person is clearly fishing for information and most likely recording this. Now, for people that have done the horrific things that these two have, 100%, they have to immediately know this call is sus.
I just wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind, Lori.
Yeah, of course.
I want to know, you remember we talked about JJ going to Kay's house, and you told me they went there, and now he's not there? I was wondering what happened.
Well.
Okay, so again, it's plainly obvious that she is recording this phone call. Lori and Chad, they're very divisive. They have to know this immediately. You can hear Lori pause, right? Almost like, okay, here we go. Obviously, we know they're on speakerphone, so her and Chad are probably giving faces and talking to one another and all that. And again, we start to see the beginning of this, of Melanie trying to pivot herself away from the culpability in this, or perceived culpability or real culpability. But I would hope at this point also a sense of guilt, personal guilt of why didn't I say something or come forward or this or that, especially learning the things that we've learned now. But anyways, let's keep listening to the phone call.
I had to move him somewhere else because of her actions. So was she doing something? Like, was she trying to come get him or something, or like trying to kidnap him? Well, she said that lots of times before, but okay. When I asked Chad the other day, I was like, hey, where is JJ? And he said, for my security, he didn't want me to know. So is there a reason I should be in danger to know where he is? No, it's nobody. It's his danger. It's the danger that there's people after me. Okay.
We just felt that if you knew, that puts you in a danger.
Well, just in a bad position.
Bad position.
Everybody, if they don't know anything, then they don't have to say they know.
Okay, now main takeaways from this part, well, there's a lot, but first of all, Chad gives me the goosebumps, plain and simple. But notice how when he chimes in and talks about the danger thing and Lori corrects him, well, no, just put you in a bad position. Like, she knows enough right there to be like, real, don't say that. You know what I'm saying? Which is why these are little things like this that make it harder for me the pill harder for me to swallow, that she is playing off this whole thing of incompetent, right? Because I think listening to parts of this phone call and so many other things, right? She definitely knows what she's hiding and whatnot. Now, again, with Melanie, listening to her talking about JJ, and one thing we're going to do is as we get deeper into the phone call, we're going to kind of compare her level of concern and her voice, because this is very flat, very I'm serving, just trying not to get myself in trouble here. So let's continue.
Right, so you're just worried. Okay. I'm just to keep him protected and
keep you protected.
And keep everybody else good. I appreciate that. Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
Now, again, we hear Lori talking about the protection thing and Chad as well and all that. Fine, dandy, whatever. We know this is a lie. And it's even more disgusting that we know that she's sitting here saying this about JJ. Allegedly, she knows what happens. Chad certainly does, right? Now, also with Melanie, I think it's interesting is when she starts to end with the whole, why did you tell them they were with me? Now, there's two parts to this. First of all, we already know that Melanie lied and was like, said, yeah, he was with me, and then played it back off, but he's already back with Lori or whatever. So she did that in the moment, which to me shows that what she's willing to do, right? Which is why I'm just like, all this stuff about, I don't believe this, and I don't believe that, and da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't really 100% go for that. But let's continue on with the saga.
Is JJ safe? He is safe and happy. Okay, well, that's good to hear. Are you afraid of anything? Like, are you afraid to tell me that you're just afraid that that I could be in danger? Like like if I knew, like, how could that hurt me? I don't understand how that could hurt me if I knew where he was. Well, I'm just not telling anybody so that nobody has to say where he is or get questioned to where he is, so I can keep him as safe as possible. Yeah.
Again, with this whole line of BS about keeping him safe, it's just disgusting how much lying they're doing. But you also can kind of see the narrative that they're feeding people like Melanie, Zulema, all these people, if allegedly they truly didn't know what took place, right? But also, again, with Melanie Gibb here, I'm just like, it's so obvious that she is extracting information. And again, when we get to in a minute where there's actually a heated conversation, it's just interesting to note how flat the emotion is here when talking about the children. Like, this could be a very topsy-turvy, emotionally driven part of the conversation. If you had friends that were serving you the story about one of their kids, that people were after them and this and that, and already we know from Melanie's mouth that Lori had told her the thing about, I'm going to make up an illness, say that Kay has to take him back, yada, yada, yada. So there's all these red flags in addition to the whole thing about Tammy. Tylee's gone, the whole 9 yards, right? There's so many red flags going on. So the fact that all that's taking place, and then out of the blue they call and say, hey, we're going to say that JJ's with you. I mean, to me, this is a place where it's like, I mean, wouldn't you be getting like upset over this, or have some form of like a absolutely something that's not right, right?
Yeah, so are you, how long are you gonna be away for? Like, are you ever gonna be able to come out and come back to society again? Or are you gonna keep, come back? What does that look like?
I will do whatever the Lord needs me to do every day, so we'll see.
I just wondered if I was ever gonna see you again.
Absolutely, you will.
Okay, so to me, on this part, Lori sounds like she goes flat to a certain degree and almost into a routine, like, I'm going to do whatever the Lord tells me to do. That kind of a thing, like, it's just weird. And again, because Melanie's so obvious trying to extract information and get them to say certain things. I mean, this is like 100% I'm trying to find out where you're at, right? So that dynamic right there is so creepy, to be honest. But now we're going to start seeing this go into like this whole, I would call it almost like religious narcissism, right? I mean, it's this like battle to be more righteous between this whole crowd of people that takes precedent over other people's lives.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous thing for them to be working with Kay to find me. There's nothing that's gone on that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're working with her in some dark capacity. The police are working with her in some dark capacity. There's no reason for them to be after me in the first place.
Now, knowing what we know now, that makes you literally just want to come through the computer screen at her, right? Because there's 100 million reasons why the police should be after her. And I mean, I would hope she knows this or whatever. But there's that. The aspect where she starts in with this, oh, they're after her in a dark way and this and that and the other. This starts in on the whole thing of, look at what Lori is comfortable talking about in front of Melanie as if it's just known knowledge, right? And so this will kind of prove an issue for Melanie at certain points, because she's trying to make this recorded phone call to make it look like, oh, I'm getting the information, I'm not going to be a part of this. And then, and these other things that we hear, where she goes on about, I wasn't fully in, it was like 90%, it was like 96.23%, that type thing. But then as you listen to the stuff that Lori feels free to talk about in front of Melanie, I'm just like, really? Because it sounds like these people talk to you like you're just one of them and like in on all this.
Okay, well, I hope so. I had a scripture I wanted to share with you, if you don't mind.
I'd love it.
I was thinking about some of the things you guys have gone through, and I saw this scripture today. And I want you to
Let me ask you a question. About scripture. Okay. So, did Alma turn himself into King Noah, or what was he required to do?
Well, King Noah was incredibly wicked.
Yes.
And so he fled his evil ways, which was adultery and living riotously and breaking all the commandments.
Right. So what was he required to do, Alma?
He had to go and flee so that he would be safe, and then help other people realize how jacked up the system was and the government was.
What about Moroni? What was he required to do at the end?
To carry on those plates and bury them. That was his responsibility.
What did he have to do to do that? What did he have to do to do that? Did he hide?
He had to hide. He had to hide because they were so. Everybody was killing everybody in the society. Everybody was dying. They were killing all the Nephites.
And the scriptures had to hide in the cavity of a rock by day and go out by night.
The prophets did.
They did.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I mean, my Lord Almighty. I'm gonna have to sage this damn room when I'm done with this. Now, here's the thing with this whole part. First of all, again, this is what I'm talking about, where it's like this battle, right? And this is like where they get the most heated, and we haven't even gotten to the most heated part. But this is where the most heartbeat comes from. Now we already know Lori is, really, she is 100% aligning herself. She would have you think she was, the Bible was written about her, right? Just 100%. So she's trying to line this up, and they get into this argument, this starting off of this. Also, I think it's interesting how Lori interrupted her when Melanie's like, I have some scriptures that I want to use. Here's the thing. I think that this whole crowd, and by that, Melanie, Lori, Chad, whoever is in this case that we're seeing that's having these arguments about the scriptures, it's like this, they've weaponized it, right? And we see that side of them coming out in this, where it's like this warfare or something like that, this spiritual warfare between them. But it's interesting how Lori is 100% walking her around this complicated field to arrive at the whole thing of she's a prophet.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that with me. Okay, this scripture is just something that may be thoughtful for you. For behold, this is Doctrine and Covenants, section 3, verse 7 and 8. It says, for behold, you should not have feared man more than God. Although men set not the counsels of God and despise his words, yet you should have been faithful, and he would have extended his arm and supported you against all the fiery darts of the adversary. He would have been with you in every trouble. So when we work with the Lord and are obedient, he's going to protect us from adversarial darts and all kinds of negativity. But when we open the door to Satan, he comes in and then he attacks, and then he takes away to make it look like somebody else took it away. But that's not how God works. He doesn't work in darkness.
Now, another thing that I think is so interesting in this scenario, and I go two ways with this. Part of me is like, okay, if this is the only way that she saw fit to break away and do this, and hopefully it help to bring justice to them, so be it. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's interesting that she doesn't seem to be able to have a thought of her own. She has to damn near speak in tongue. But she's like, well, let me give you this, here's this, passage or what, I can't remember what she called it right now. This essentially, she's trying to preach to them, right? Now, one thing that we'll see is through a lot of this, it's just like the stuff that Melanie so hardcore wants to preach is to everybody, because again, she's very big on wanting to teach the world a lesson, right? This is a very big thing to her. It's almost like you have to question, has she learned it herself?
I agree with you 100%, and that's what the Lord is doing for me, exactly what he's doing for me.
Oh, it just
We have not opened the door for darkness now. Darkness is knocking on the door all the time, because that's the way dark works with the light. And I promise you that I have done nothing wrong in this case, but sometimes you have to hide in the cavity of a rock for your own life safety. And that's what the Lord requires of you sometimes. And that's how it is. And I'm sorry that's how it is, because there is a lot of darkness on the earth.
I know.
Now, again, here we go. This is, Lori's getting a little heated there. And again, switching to light, darkness. Oh, we have to hide in a rock. Oh, prophet this, prophet that. It's just the narcissism and the craziness is absolutely astounding with her, right? But also, Melanie, I just think it's interesting to see how she responds, because she almost sounds like a little child. And it sounds like, I know. And we're going to see her, we'll get a little deeper into that here in a minute, about how she starts coming out of her, because she gets a little bit of a backbone. She gets a little bit, antsy or whatever. So let's keep going.
She's been after me for zero reason, besides the darkness of Kay, which you already know she's dark.
I haven't met her enough to know if she is dark or not. I've just met her slightly, and she seemed like a normal kind of person, but then I haven't engaged with her that much, so I don't know that personally.
So you don't know about her changing the thing for herself to be the beneficiary of the policy and all that stuff. None of that's dark, right?
Well, I haven't seen those documents, so I have no way of knowing.
You've seen them on my computer.
No, I have not. I haven't even looked on your computer before. You haven't shown me anything.
I don't know why you're being controversial to me, or if you're recording this conversation for the police or whatever. I don't know what your intention is on this phone call.
Well,
but I love you with all my heart, and I have forever, and I will always love you.
I appreciate those words, but if you really love me, you wouldn't have told the police that I had JJ with me. That's not what a friend does.
Okay, this one, there's so much in this one. First of all, let's start here. Yes, I agree with Melanie. if Lori truly loved her, she would not have tried to throw this whole, oh, JJ's with you and all this type of stuff. 100% on board with Melanie with this, right? Okay, the big takeaway for me from this clip right here is when she starts to go down, when Lori, she starts talking about Kay, and Kay's dark, and all this dark people coming after, Lori, dark spirits, all this kind of stuff. And then and again, this is what I'm talking about, where she's talking to Melanie as if this is common knowledge. And then Melanie breaks away. Well, I haven't met her in person. I don't know these things. And you can hear Lori pause, and this is where probably this light goes off of, yeah, this is confirmed. You can tell, and I believe this is authentic, that Lori's like, what? So you don't know that she tried to do this and tried to do that and yada, yada. Now we already know that Kay didn't switch that. This is Lori spinning things, right? And then Melanie's sitting there. Well, you haven't seen that on my computer? Lori says, no, I've never seen that. And that's where Lori's like, I don't know why you're being adversarial or controversial, whatever she said. Because I think that is how it goes. I think that Melanie did know all this stuff. And she went along with it. And either it was like, pandering or, placating, what's her name, Lori, agreeing with her, playing the yes woman, all that kind of stuff along the way. And now all of a sudden that the chips are breaking, everyone's getting in trouble. Well, I never said that. I think Kay's pretty normal. That type situation. So again, this is where it goes into where I don't have a whole bunch of trust with Melanie, because there's two sides to her stories, it seems. And I think that she was way more involved in agreement with all of this stuff that essentially was taking people's lives, right? And so this is the first time this phone call where I'm like, oh yeah, hands down, Melanie, not the first sign in the phone call, but Melanie is 100% like pushed up against the wall. Because again, remember, she's recording this to give to someone, so she's trying to be like, I didn't do this. Well, we already saw too from the interviews where they've had to come at her and be like, look, you need to tell us everything. And she's continually trying to back out of believing or not believing in the stuff.
I mean, that just makes me look weird, and it's not safe for me. That doesn't look good. I mean, you had to think of my welfare if you love me.
I do, and I did exactly what I felt the Lord was instructing me to do. And I appreciate you, and I love you.
Okay, now one part with that, there's a couple of parts to it. Number one, I think that we're also going down the little avenue that we see Lori talking to her like she's a child. I appreciate you and I love you. This kind of stuff. And I think that this has worked with Lori and her in the past. I do think that probably behind closed doors and between each other, if we saw the way they interacted, we would probably be like hurling everywhere, because the cringe would be so incredible. Now, on that same note, I do believe that Melanie has a point, that Lori is deflecting by immediately going and blaming it on the Lord, right? But Melanie is true, and I said this before earlier, if you really cared about her, would you be, why would you even do this? Because I don't think that Lori and Chad really cared about Melanie or Melanie Pulowski or any of these people, right? I think they were just all pawns in this little game for them. But I also think that Melanie Gibb would have gone along with stuff like this prior to, right? She probably already has lied for them in other scenarios, maybe not as severe as with the child. But I just think that one reason why they went to her for this is because they've been able to in the past.
And I've never do anything to harm you. And you can have all of this confirmed to you by the Lord.
I have. And my conscience is clear. I feel very understanding what's really going on, Lori. And I believe that you have been very deceived by Satan. I believe that he has tricked you. And I don't believe that what you're doing is correct. I just don't. I mean, Tammy dies, and then your husband died, and then he's missing. It just doesn't sound like God's plan to me.
Now, again, we finally see Melanie starting to throw all this out there, all this completely shady and criminal stuff that is true. But I don't understand, and this even for others, right, that were involved in this group, Zalima, Melanie Pulowski, all these people, all of this stuff was going on. I just always come back to, my God, a red flag should have gone off so much sooner before it escalated to this. And this is where I just feel like a lot of these people, and especially in this scenario, Melanie, Gibb, went along with so much without saying things. I mean, I'm going to use the term like aiding and abetting or whatever, but that's enabling is a better word, I should say. Enabling by inaction, you know what I mean? And so we're starting to see this right here. And I think that this, again, I've said before, is one of the first times that she's ever kind of been like this with Lori. And I think that this, again, is very reminiscent to a teenager, a child, having their first conversations with a parent of going against a parent's narrative, going against a parent's wishes, standing up to a parent, whether right, wrong, or indifferent. This just serves that energy to me.
It gives me a gut feeling, like in my gut, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. I don't have peace about it. I never have felt 100% peace about it. I always felt like a little weird in my stomach about all these things.
You know me, Mel. You know me.
Now, again, as we've heard throughout all this other stuff of, I've never felt 100%. I've never felt 100%. And if this is true and this is really how she did feel, I was uneasy. I mean, the stuff they were coming out with, I'm like, girl, I mean, no, absolutely not. This is just not stuff you go along with and let it marinate to see if it'll make sense. Also, the things that we hear them talking about in the interview, like with the multiple probations, calling Lori mom, all this kind of stuff. It's like, why go along with something like that? That's so out there. That is so just out there. Why go along with something like that, especially when really bizarre stuff starts to happen? One could argue, and we'll get into this a little bit, of, Lori and Chad connecting, knowing that, don't you have a husband? And, doesn't he have a wife? And as we'll learn, Lori could say the same about her and David.
This does not sound like you. This sounds like you've been influenced by somebody dark who wants you to believe dark things and have fear of the celestial world.
I don't have fear.
You obviously do.
No, I have a peace of conscience and I can see clearly.
Again, and with the dark stuff and all that, but this is another glimpse of how this all transpires. She's questioning. They're coming to her like someone's influencing you, and we're going to get to who in a minute. You already know if you've been watching this. The blame, it's someone else out here, it's someone here. Now, also interesting when Lori says that she has fear, and she's like, I don't have fear. She speaks up very quickly about that. Yes, you do. This argument that they go back and forth, I mean, it's just the bickering of it. But again, there's something so childlike about this.
I just want to testify that I know Tammy does. The conspiracy theories, my sister-in-law's right behind it all, and I hope that you're not being influenced by that dark team.
I don't know who she is. I'm sorry, you said your sister-in-law? I don't even know her.
Oh, I know, but she's coming up with the same type of theories. Mm-hmm. And it's just not true. My own children were there. They testified that Tammy had been getting weaker and sick, and I begged her to go to the doctor. Her heart was failing her. She was physically falling apart, and she hates doctors. And she just passed away.
Now, he had to chime in. I just want to testify. I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, he just angers me. There's just absolutely nothing there, right? And this whole thing, we know all this is it's a lie, right? He's covering up, he's manipulating, and even, Melanie is just, I don't know her, I don't know this one. It blows my mind how much Chad and them can just, cover up and lie with this kind of stuff or whatever. But again, everything is blamed on all these other people. Oh, this person went dark and they're influencing this, and this person did this and they're influencing that, and da-da-da-da. And I'm sure Lori's in the background, and she'll pipe up here again in a second. Just wanted to go off here. Because Chad is more like level-headed this time, even though he's totally cringy. But, I bet Lori's like, she's coming out with her claws ready to go.
You can understand my concern, correct?
I can, from an outside perspective, but from
someone who knows as much as you know, no, not really. But we can feel Dave's influence on you. I can feel that for sure.
He's a very good man, and he has a very strong foundation, that I know.
Okay, so now here is the claws are out. She's ready to rumble. Okay, but what's interesting is look at how she cuts Chad off. And for someone who knows as much as you know, this is the part right here where I'm like, ooh, this is good salty stuff. But then also we've gone from someone's influencing you to Dave, right? David Warwick, so she's talking about. That immediate turn like that, I'm just like, wow. But again, you know, before Melanie has talked about, like, in the interview with Nate, like, oh, well, you know, what if they came after me and all this? And I'm like, yeah, this is how it happens, right? She's honestly, I mean, I'll say this, she's lucky she's alive. She should count her lucky stars, because trust me, she would have been next. She would have 100% been next. But then, you know, just falling back on that, he has a strong foundation. I mean, I am sorry, but her perception and, like, you know, radar with who is decent, her moral compass, it ain't working.
I know, but he seems to be the one that's putting the doubts in your mind.
No, you know what? I have come to understand that my gut feeling, I was not listening to it. And I always felt uncomfortable with many things.
So again, at this point, it's too late though. So it's like, and maybe she was right. Maybe she's being truthful here. I didn't trust my gut. I never felt comfortable with things. But then why not have come out beforehand? Because this is what I go back to, I guess, and I question, is because I'm like, this is such serious stuff. This isn't just, you know, I felt like they were misinterpreting the scriptures. People are losing their lives over this. Like, this is very serious stuff. You know, when people are talking about, well, I knew I had 2 segments to my life and that Tammy would pass away, and I mean, come on.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry that I included you in those teachings then for your own sake, because I wish that you didn't have as much knowledge as you have, because you will be accountable for the knowledge that you do have, Mel.
So are you.
Now again, Miss Lori, she ain't playing games at this point. I mean, this speaks for itself, right? She's like, I wish I hadn't taught you all the stuff that you know, because you're going to be accountable for that. I mean, this is like, to me, a veiled threat. No pun intended. And notice how at the ending, when Mel's like, so are you? I mean, she's back talking now. Okay, this is pure back talk. Okay, blasphemous back talk. She ain't having it, okay? Like, if they were there, they'd be going at it, okay? Just punching air at each other. So here, again, we're going to start looking at this dynamic of, look at what Lori is comfortable speaking to Melanie about. Look at these very passive-aggressive threats. Look at this about the knowledge you know, the this, the that, the da. This goes very deep. And it is veiled beneath this, what I just think is BS, like this made-up stuff, right, that is covering up their real mission, whatever that might have been. You know, Chad in the beginning is just like talking about, oh, this isn't a conspiracy, this isn't a thing. Yeah, it is. Okay, I mean, 100% is, right? I mean, it's 100% that way. So let's keep going.
I was reading the story of Chloroform, and it is so very similar to this, you just can't see it. But he did it because he was trying to reclaim a people, and he thought at the very end, because of his carnal and natural desires, that's what influenced him. And he was very deceiving.
Carnal natural desires?
Well, honey, you got a lot of natural desires. We all know that.
She has to, like, a low-key call her. I mean, I can't believe I'm having this conversation. Okay, so she low-key calls her. And then she tops it, the cherry on top of it. Well, we all know you've got a lot of natural desires. I'm like, I didn't know little Miss Melanie had it in her now. I did not know she had it in her. I mean, she went from 0 to 60 just like that, right? She's been passive this whole time. She doesn't care. Like, she no longer is thinking that the police are going to listen to this, right? She's like, I'm going to say it. It needs to be said, okay? You're a core whore and you got a lot of natural desires. Okay, we're all talking about it. So that speaks for itself, right? I mean, she's using the scriptures or the Bible. I'm not sure what exactly the correct reference is for it. So the scriptures, the Bibles, whatever, to essentially insult. I mean, again, they're using this as like, warfare, or, she's using this to insult Lori. Well, Lori catches on to this or whatever. And I mean, just the fact that she does that, like, all bets are off at this point, right? She has called her a tart, basically. And let's see how this goes.
That's what you think is me, Cora? Are you kidding me right now?
I think both of you have similarities. It's in the scriptures. It's in the scriptures. And the scriptures are very powerful.
Yes, they are. I live by the scriptures, as you know.
I know, but we can wrest the scriptures for our own vain glory.
I wrested the scriptures?
We can do that, and I feel that you have to see our belief systems.
Do I wrest the scriptures? Is that what you're accusing me of at this point?
I feel that you have.
So now in this one, I mean, she's just calling it out like it is. She's just like, look, the both of you are damn core whores. That's all there is to it, But one thing that's interesting about this clip is just Lori. I mean, my God, so full of herself. I follow the scriptures. And I'm just like, how do they even, because I do think that Lori believes that to a certain degree. I think she's so full of herself that she, does think this, right? And again, like, I guess my thing with Melanie is at a certain point, I'm like, do we have to, interpret everything through the scriptures? And maybe that's just what she's trained to do. I don't know. But the behavior of this crowd, I'm just like, honey, you don't need to filter this through scriptures, the Bible, anything. These people aren't right. Okay, like, you can just see that. Like, you don't need any other thing but a moral compass. And this is what I'm talking about, that I think she just kind of lacks this, because it seems like she has to, clutch onto everything to tell her something that, to me, I'm just like, don't you see within yourself that this isn't right? That something's not checking out here? That it hasn't been checking out? That you don't need to associate with this type of people? You don't need a book to tell you that.
Why do you feel that way? I need an explanation on this.
Because if you look, like the scripture just shared. Okay,
you read the scriptures every single day, I
know you read them. I don't doubt that. But this scripture right here says that you will be supported by all against the fiery darts of the adversary. You would have been supported if you had not opened dark portals and dark junk. You would have been safe if you would have obeyed God. He would have had your back. But you have been chased and tortured.
Whether he do this or not,
I'm sorry?
He has your back. So,
well, if he has your back, you would not be able to tell me where you are, and we couldn't find JJ. Like, where is he? I've been asking, where is he? And you know what I mean? Like,
I can tell everything where JJ is right now, and that would not be good for JJ. So I'm sorry that you don't want me to protect my children, but I would never ask you to not protect your children.
Of course you wouldn't.
Now, Lori gaslighted her into a little corner there with that whole remark about the children thing. Because again, sadly, we know what's taking place with the children at this point, right? But Lori's going to gaslight that situation. Now, also, again, where Lori gets, and this is the thing that blows my mind, Lori gets more heated about being called a core whore than she does the children. And then even with Melanie towards the end, like I've been asking, like, where are the children? Where is JJ? I mean, they are more concerned about proving who is right about the scriptures than about the children. Both of them, And this is this lackluster thing that we've seen from the people involved of, just this, benign emotion about the kids and anything that can happen with it. And side note, I keep looking off over here, and I need to stop doing that because my computer's right here. And so I keep looking at the clips and stuff on here that I'm doing. Like, I'm talking to the damn computer. I'm talking to you. I'm sorry. But you see where I'm going with that. Now, you also see this getting more heated and more heated. Like, Lori is PO'd right now, right? Maybe Melanie was at some point, I don't know. But also, again, it feels like a mother-daughter argument. And it shouldn't feel like that, right? Like, that's creepy in this situation.
So I can tell that you're just adversarial, Mel. I love you. I'm sorry that you feel this way.
Because I actually do care. I'm sharing what I feel for you because I know your salvation's in trouble for what you've done.
If my salvation is not in trouble at all, and I think you should check that with the Lord again.
Well, I felt a lot of things from the Lord, and this doesn't feel right.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, sweetheart.
Okay, so a few things. Again, the manipulation. I love you, sweetheart, all that kind of stuff. Again, I think that this is how Lori usually interacts with Melanie. This usually works. This like, I'm going to call you this, I'm going to call you that. It's also like this underhanded thing. Like, have you ever seen like two people get mad at each other and one of them's like, I just want to hug your neck, and you know they really mean like, I'm going to strangle you? You know, this kind of thing right here, right? The fact that Lori is so confident, my salvation is not a question. And I'm like, oh, I'm with Mel. I'm like, yeah, it should be. And again, I'll agree with Mel on this. Like, if this was any other two people that were having this conversation and one of them said, I care, therefore I'm asking. I mean, I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that's authentic here. I think that, you know, maybe she could still care about her, but she's concerned about getting her butt out of trouble. Okay, that's why she's asking this. Don't let this fool you. This whole thing here is cloaked in that, right? And that's how all of this crowd operates, in cloaks and veils. Again, no pun intended. But same with Mel right here. This is to get her out of trouble. There's not too much concern about the children. Probably not that much concern about Lori. And if I had to sit here and decide which one she cared more about, it would definitely be Lori. But still, the Richter scale is very low on that one.
You know, when you get the priesthood, that's Peter, James, and John shows up, and then he confirms all of those in the circle that are to get it, and everybody's a witness of that. Everybody's a witness that the pattern is in the scriptures. There's no witness that you ever receive what you think you received. Nobody has seen that but you. There's no witness. The witness, Joseph Smith, all of the cavalry, Martin Harris, the 8 witnesses, they all showed up.
Was there a witness when Jesus, Heavenly Father, gave that to Joseph Smith by himself in the grove? Was there a witness?
No, but they had it later with other people. That was one experience, but others joined in later. When he brought other people into it, they had experiences.
Scriptures, yes or no?
I'm sorry?
Is that in the scriptures, yes or no?
That Joseph was alone when he saw God the Father and Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Yes, he was alone.
He was alone.
But he had to open it up first.
That's not a pattern at all.
Honey, what I'm saying is that after he saw that and other people joined in, they saw the things with him. And he wasn't alone. There was a witness for them. There was no witness. Anybody's never seen what you've seen or experienced what you've seen. That's your own witness, but nobody's had that.
No, God knows it, and I will never deny it. For my soul would be at stake if I did. So you can say it didn't happen to me, Mel, but if I say it, then I am accountable. You didn't witness it, but I did.
But your behaviors is not, okay, I understand that's what you believe you saw, but this is the thing, as I see, is that your behavior is not one.
I mean, my God. So Lori is so upset. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Look at how heated they are over this. Lori is upset that she's not God, basically. Let's just break it down very basic here, right? That she is this almighty deity. Melanie is sitting here, you know, finally sitting here and saying the fact that she's even engaged in this conversation and went along with any of this for any amount of time is utterly shocking to me, because the stuff that Lori clearly has told her, and again, if you listen, read between the lines, the fact that they're having this conversation now, that she doesn't believe this now, meant she did at one point and went along with it. And maybe she was questioning this and never brought it up, and then you have to ask, well, what was your motivation for wanting to go along with it? You know, other than just letting it marinate, right? But this has Lori heated. Not the talk about the children, right? This has Mel heated, getting all up in it. Not the talk about the children. And again, it's one of those things where if you listen to what is not said, and what's in between the lines, it tells you way more than what's coming out of their mouths. Because half the stuff that comes out of their mouth is absolute nonsense.
Of somebody that's in Christ. Your behavior. What?
Never had any idea that you would be the person of all people to turn me. I cannot believe
I am asking questions, and I am concerned for you. That is what somebody does when they care.
You don't sound like you're concerned. You sound like you're accusatory. You do not sound concerned. You sound pissed off.
I'm not. I am troubled. Maybe that's the better word. Troubled.
And here we have it. The boiling up here of the teenage fight of the teenager completely going against mother and breaking away. And that's what this feels like. And you heard, like, I never thought you would have turned on me. 100%. That's why I say she's lucky she's alive. She's lucky she's alive with all that she probably knew. And then she pulled this number. I mean, let's be honest, right? Lori was probably on damn speed dial to Alex, right? And so, you know, again, I just think that they're both kind of gaslighting each other, because we know that Melanie is trying to get out of trouble. So this whole, I'm concerned, she's not concerned for Lori. Lori ain't concerned for her, right? She just wanted to use her in her little game. So anyway, let's keep going.
Because these things, like you being with Chad before he's even divorced, is unusual behavior for a person that's seen Jesus Christ.
I was never with him, and he was never divorced.
Honey, I've seen you guys together. So I haven't ever seen you with, I've never seen you with Chad kiss him and walk around the track at BYU with him. I never saw that. You
say you're the one that's just feeling guilty about being with someone before they were divorced.
Oh, honey. I think that's not what we're talking about here.
Well, let me tell you what, Lori shut her up real damn quick, okay? Now, the sad part about this is that Lori honestly thinks it's a flex to be like, Chad was never divorced. We took his wife out, I'll have you know. Now, obviously, she didn't say that, but it's literally, in a sense, what they're trying to say, right? And then the fact that she just calls Miss Melanie right on out, and Miss Melanie, she didn't know what to say. You know, and that's where she's like, but again, this is what I'm talking about, where I'm just like, yeah, you know what? You got to make sure your own back porch is cleaned off before you tell others how to clean it up, number one. Number two, you know, again, she's going, oh, well, you were doing this and your behavior this. If you can say this now, why were you going along with it then? To being as deep as you were. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Unless I personally think she wanted to belong to something so bad that she was willing to go along with this nonsense. You know, against every gut feeling, against every sense of normalcy, against any kind of moral compass. Because at the end of the day, like we've all seen, children were losing their lives, spouses were losing their lives, bad stuff was happening around this group of people. Anyone who is sitting here trying to tell you that they are the people that Lori and Chad are claiming to be, and that they're running the 144,000, all this stuff, you run screaming from that. You know, and so that's where, with this information that we review and all this kind of stuff, where, you know, it's just, there's just way more ulterior motives going on than trying to be helpful. And I think that this phone call, while it is like, okay, great, once you then look beneath the surface of all this other stuff and this evidence, things just don't really add up, right? And it makes her look even more divisive. And by her, I mean Melanie. And this is where I'm very curious to see how she's used on the stands, how that time goes, because again, there's so much information out there, I don't think it went well. Now, what we're going to do is this. We're going to wrap this video up here for now. Like I said, we might do a part 2 on this. The other part of it, again, looking through the lens of what we know now, this type stuff, and just see how that goes. So I'm curious what you think. You know, again, I hadn't watched this phone call or listened to it in a while. So I just wanted to go through it again and obviously piece some of the stuff together and just look at it with a fresh lens. So that is it. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to everybody who makes the Sofa Squad possible. It would not be possible without you. And Roscoe went off and took a little nap. We had to take a break between filming. So this is actually later in the day before earlier because they've been working on the house or the apartment complex. Anyways, that's it. I love you, Sofa Squad. And I will see you each around the sofa next time. Whoosh.